welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Joella Foulds, and I'm sitting in this chair instead of your regular host, Dawn Beaton, because Dawn Beaton is in the next chair. Today we're going to be talking about the programming for Celtic Colours 2014, and joining me today are the Artistic Director, Dawn Beaton, and our Outreach Coordinator, Yvette Rogers. They together put together the programming that will be part of what we present for Celtic Colours 2014. So I thought you'd like to hear about that. So, Dawn, give us a bit of a heads up. What is the approach that has been taken this year to the festival, and what can people expect?
Well, we went with the theme of family and friends, which is a great theme to work under, and it's it's with almost more than 75% of our programming being local based. It's such a fitting theme or focus to look at that. Just because of the culture here in Cape Breton and beyond, and it shows that contrast, I think, with our invited guests as well. That family seems to be at the core of culture and music, and that transmission of how that gets passed down generation to generation. So it's so great to work within that perspective, and it reinforces and aligns our Celtic cousins around the world that this is something that is universal and is nurtured in the home.
And friends as well. Over the years, there have been not only a lot of friends at the festival, but people who've developed friendships with each other because of the festival.
And you know best. I mean, that's the beauty of this for me, is to learn. I have my perspective now that's just kind of a short window, and I've been going to you for that other perspective for the other, the many years before that, to say, who has been our friends and what's been that connection. And I think, a couple of years ago with the book that was done on all the compositions and songs that have arisen from the festival and those friends that have come together, it's remarkable to see what the festival has inspired. So I think to have the friends element just reinforces again, and hopefully, your family or your friends too, I suppose, but that there are such friends of the festival, and there are friends that have united and gone on to create bands that are touring worldwide because of Celtic Colours, and that all happens here. So I think it's a really exciting theme to have, and I think the programming hopefully shows that that's the case.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for us to put together a great program, but I think it's a great way for people to come and reconnect to the audience, and the audience to reconnect to them as well, because some of those people who were with us a number of times in the early years are back this year.
Yeah, we're really excited, to have Phil Cunningham and Ali Bain back. It's been, I was remarking to people that, it's been 2006 since they've been here for the 10th anniversary, and people kind of say, oh my God, it's been that long already. So super excited to have them. They're here in the opening show. To have Sharon Shannon back, it's been 2003. So she'll be in the closing show with Natalie. And
there's a great friend story there, isn't there?
There is. Well, you could probably speak better to it than I, but they met at the first festival in '97.
They did. Sharon and Natalie had known of each other, but they hadn't actually met.
And this was their first opportunity.
And we found out after the fact they sneaked away and recorded together.
Yeah.
And they kept in touch, and now they're back playing for our closing show.
Yeah, and they've done at least 2 recordings. I think Sharon was on 2 of Natalie's recordings, and actually being at the center, the Celtic Music Interpreter Center yesterday, and for the launch, and anyways, we know the date now, but the center is great. They have music playing all the time on their iPod Shuffle. And what came on but the Natalie and Sharon Shannon track from, I think it was the Magic Rabbit Foot, that was on the Celtic Colours compilation in 1998. Right. And that just came on, and Cheryl remarked, there's Natalie and Sharon. So, I think that'll be an exciting collaboration to happen on stage. And really, they're so busy that this is their first opportunity to get back together.
Yeah.
David Francie, it's been, I think 2008 was his last visit. Yeah, I think, and then Alistair Fraser, Natalie Haas. I mean, there's some really great friends returning, and that's the vibe that we're feeling, that people are excited to see their friends returning.
We're going to get back to that in a few minutes, but I want to talk to Yvette for a few minutes because as the outreach coordinator, you're collaborating and coordinating with all this all the time, but tell us a bit about how you're putting together and what your programming is going to look like.
Okay, well, my role with the festival would be the other events, so to speak. So the things that complement the concerts that folks can do in the daytime before the show, and what they might be able to do after the show if they're not heading to Festival Club on those rare nights that they may not head to Festival Club. And I get to deal with a lot of community members where family and friends is a real heart of the community, and that comes forward with a lot of the different events that they put on. So this year, some of them took the theme in terms of some of the stories that they'll be telling, and others do what they do best in hosting the community meals that they normally host, or workshops and that sort of thing that they host.
So give us a bit of there's several categories that this programming happens in, and as you say, it's outside of the concert times, it's before or after, but what kinds of things do people have to choose from?
Well, we've broken the events into 6 categories now. So we have farmers markets that's our newest category that we added last year. Given that there is such a rich history of agriculture here in Cape Breton, and that we're quite fortunate to have a lot of those heritage assets, not only in the culture of dance and music and language, but also in the process of sharing food, in which a lot of community development happens organically, pardon the pun. And farmers markets are a great way to support those local producers who continue the custom of agriculture and the business of agriculture here in Cape Breton. And you can also score some lovely jams and pies from local people, and they'll usually have crafts and handmade wares as well in addition to food. So it's really a great addition to the lineup of events. There are outdoor events because our island is so beautiful that for those who are outdoor enthusiasts who enjoy hiking or biking or would like to get out in the open air and really experience the island, a few events that are labeled as outdoor events would be guided by a local facilitator. So it may be someone who works for the national park, it may be someone who is a local historian or aware of people who may have lived in the area and take you on a guided walk and tell you a little bit about some of the history of that community. It might be a bicycle tour or a whale watching tour, that sort of thing. So outdoor events are a category in themselves for those who are interested in the outdoors. Community meals are a category in and of themselves. They're a very important part of Cape Breton culture and a really important part of the Celtic Colours Festival lineup, because a lot of our concerts are in very rural communities where there are a limited amount of opportunities for them to find a bite to eat in terms of concert goers. So if we have a mix of locals and visitors who are heading to a concert in Aspy Bay, for instance, at the school, and there's 200 seats. There are a few local restaurants that we do hope they hit up along the way, but there's also an opportunity for them to participate in a local community meal, like sit with the locals and join in on a locally sourced seafood meal up there. So as one of the examples of the many community meals that happen, and there are breakfasts, luncheons, and dinners before the show. And within our program, we do try to make that connection if there is a meal happening immediately before or immediately after a concert. We'll draw a little bit of attention to that so that it's a little bit easier to find. There are participatory events, which are events that people can jump right in, not necessarily instructional by nature, unless you're in a square dance and you're next to someone who really knows what they're doing. You might get instructions whether you expect them or not. Square dances being one example of the participatory events that we have. Milling frolics, which are a participatory event. Tune sessions. If you're a player and you're really itching to play yourself, you're so inspired after watching all of these wonderful shows, grab your fiddle or your banjo or your guitar out of the trunk and head for a jam session, of which there are several listed under participatory events, or song sessions if you're interested in the singing along aspect. We have a visual art series that was an addition to the festival a few years before I came along. I was very happy to include that as well. So I have visual arts in my family. My dad's a painter, and I look at the island itself as a painting, and so it's quite a lovely addition to the festival to see so many of the artists whose expression is not necessarily through tunes and songs or dance, but through their hands in a way that they come up with these wonderful pieces of textile art or paintings or sculpture. And there are a lot of different show and sales, exhibits, and workshops that fall under the visual art series category. And then lastly, there are learning opportunities, which if someone is a culture buff or interested in digging a little deeper in either Celtic culture or the island's culture or a community's culture, the learning opportunities are a great opportunity for them to learn more by way of either a hands-on workshop. There are workshops on heritage craft and dance, step dance, square dance. If you do want to learn what you're doing before you head out to the square dance, then take a square dance workshop so that you're a bit more confident on your feet. And then there are the series that we help program, like the Celtic Conversation series at the library, which are demonstration talks, a bit of the background of a particular artist and their story or what they take to the festival, which we believe enriches people's experience at the concerts. Once they go and see them in the show, they know a little more about that artist and where they're coming from, and I rely on Dawn a great deal there for going in and finding out who's where, and we play with logistics in terms of programming that.
There is a lot of back and forth there, particularly when it comes to some of those events, so that the whole thing is quite integrated together, both from a perspective of the artist, but also from the timing.
Yes.
Right? So that geographic timing makes a big difference, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we always have the drivers in mind. We have a team of volunteer drivers who coordinate our transportation. And in terms of what makes sense for who's staying where and who's playing where and when their sound check should be and how long it takes for them to get there would factor into who are we going to program into what learning opportunity in the daytime. So if, for instance, someone is playing in Inverness and staying in Baddeck, then I'm not going to send them to Sydney for their daytime talk.
But in terms of the coordination for the audience too,
absolutely,
a big part of your role is to make sure that people can get from one place to another with enough time to do the various activities, and that they are geographically sent in the right direction, correct?
That's correct.
Well, no one knows the island better than
I know, she knows.
She's the go-to to know what's the best restaurant to go to, what's the best beach, you know, how to get from, you know, what road, what special back road to take.
And how long it takes to get there. No, that's not enough time. You drive too fast. You'll say to me. The audience won't be going there that fast. They need this much time between the workshop and the supper or whatever. So that's a big job for you to keep all that organized and together. And, you know, it's over 200 events now, right?
Yeah, it's grown quite a bit. And yeah, I'm very grateful for my knowledge of the island for sure, in terms of using that when I am helping to plan a lot of these events, so that they do link up and line up, so that it makes sense for someone if they're interested in going to a concert in Mabou, then maybe you may want to go this way. And there's a breakfast in Port Hood, and then in the afternoon there's a storytelling session, and then you can have a dinner before you go to the show in Mabou, which is only 15 or 20 minutes
people think
up the road.
If people think it's random, it's not.
It's not
very,
random.
very well organized. And again, you know, like in some of these events where we're actually programming the same people in both community cultural events and the concerts, what you find you're using is the new people. People want to know about the new people, don't they?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's always still a lot to learn about our own culture, I think. And, you know, we've got such a wonderful group of youth coming through, and it's important to instill that to them. But with our visitors especially, and hopefully our locals, they get a chance to say, what's unique about our visitors coming? What do they have to offer? What's what's their history, what's their music, what is the meaning behind what they're doing. And I think, that speaks to the program that we have, that it's authentic and it's related and it's the real deal. So it makes that so much more interesting and convenient for them. So I hope that people go and take that time to really, we have people coming from a great distance, and maybe more so than ever this year. We've got
maybe you can talk about that a little bit. We've got some very distant people coming.
Talking about logistics, we've got some, it's one thing to navigate the island, but we've got...
the globe.
Yeah. The globe is an interesting place to navigate these days, I can say. So, yeah, I think we've got a wonderful collaboration happening with Cape Breton University. And that's taking place with the Singing Storytellers Conference that's taking place just maybe the day before, a day or two before the festival begins. And we'll incorporate some programming with that here at Cape Breton University and then in Whitney Pier, which is fantastic. Again, looking to the grander scale of what is here island-wide and the many cultures that do exist here. So I think people that want to learn a bit more about, the bardic tradition around the world, which will have representatives from Ireland and locally here in Cape Breton, and then, some Ukrainian as well, and then Mali.
Africa.
We have 2 people from Mali coming, which is really... amazing. We're very ecstatic for that opportunity, and I think that only benefits us and only enriches what we know of our own culture. It's so great. I think that's the beauty of Celtic Colours and your vision for what we have such a rich culture here, and we know it, and hopefully we go out and live it and experience it. But we're just one piece of that puzzle in the grander scheme of things, and for me, it just reinforces what's happening in Orkney or the Shetlands, or what's happening in Northern Ireland. What's there for them is so important, and it's just as important and just as rich. And to have that here just shows what we have is so great, and we can celebrate each other's cultures.
Yes, and that exchange of cultures has always been high on our list, and this is just taking it to another level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this year there are some other new people coming from other places besides Africa, artists that we haven't seen before. Can you give us a little example of some of those that kind of get you excited?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got a new band that hasn't been here before, which would be Wee Banjo 3 from Ireland. And, you and I saw them firsthand, which, again, is critical to programming, at Celtic Connections, which, they blew the roof off the place, and I know they'll do the same here. I get excited when, there's bands such as De Temps en Temps that are just up the road in Quebec, and I was talking to some people yesterday that remember their performance at Festival Club. Yeah. Just I think it was 2010 or 2011 they were here, and that's such a strong reaction. So being a dancer, when you have music that is just so rhythmic and driving like they are, I think it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, and there's another band, a Creole band that's coming that we haven't had before, which is quite exciting.
That's true. A couple of years ago, you had the programming around the Appalachia region, and this is something even just a little more south, I guess. This is Les Amis Creoles. And I saw Cedric Watson perform. It's almost a year to the date at Port Townsend, Washington for the. We both taught at the Festival of American Fiddle Tunes, and he is the real deal. And we had kind of Cedric on our radar for a few years, but the time was now, and I think it'll be great. And to reach out to have him in our Acadian communities, and go to school shows and reinforce to our population, our distant cousins, that this is...
we're connected.
We're so connected.
Yeah, and music has a way of connecting people, even if they think we're different in so many other ways. Mm-hmm. It has a way of bringing them together, doesn't it?
The universal language. And I think Festival Club is maybe the best example of that, where, it's just another means of learning and experiencing one's culture, and then everyone just drives around the floor and gets a set going, or just emotes that in a physical way, and it's visible, it's quite tangible.
We've seen lots and lots of examples of how that has led to people collaborating in other ways. And I guess one of the ones that jumps out at me, and we're going to see again this year, is Tim Eady and the connections that he's made, right, since we first brought him over.
Boy, we've got some great musicians that love coming back, and when they do, they make the most of it, and they know our drivers, they know our community volunteers, they have made some really lifelong lasting friendships, and Tim is one example, and he's back. We'll get to see Tim and JP collaborate together on stage at our closing show, and you can be sure that even we can't predict the magic that will transpire on stage.
And the fact that he's now doing some touring with Natalie, which would never have happened if he hadn't come over here and met everybody here. So it makes us feel really good that this is happening.
This is happening, and it has real impacts to lots of people's lives.
I wanted to just spend a minute talking to you both about the fact that you come at this from the perspective of a musician and an artist yourselves. Mm-hmm. Yvette, tell folks a little bit about your musical background and what you do.
Well, I'm a songwriter. Would be probably how I would identify with myself most, I guess, as a songwriter, and through dance too. I danced all my life, and I find that song is a gift, and I'm one of the types of songwriters that I have an antenna that goes up and catches what's floating by. Mm-hmm. And if I'm lucky enough to be able to articulate that lyrically, then I catch it, and sometimes it takes a while for a song to build, but I have given myself the best advice I've ever received by a song. And I remember sitting down with Leona Chisholm, Archie Neal's daughter, when we were playing the Archie Neal stage a few years ago. And she had referred to a quote that he had said, and I will misquote him, but the sentiment of it was that if you have a gift, then you should share it. That if you were possessed with the talent, then, that is not just a gift to you, that's a gift to everyone. And that is what led me to want to learn how to play the guitar to accompany myself. So I learned lessons from Mike Liliev, and went on to playing guitar from there. But I still write songs.
But your dance background kind of led you in the musical direction anyway. I mean, you've been a Highland dancer since you were a child, right?
Yeah, I danced since I was 4, and that I fell in love with the pipes, whether I realized it until adulthood or not. And then that steered my musical tastes. Although I'm also drawn a lot to like the Appalachian flavored bluegrassy style of music. And interestingly, my grandmother played. So she came from Scotland when she was a teenager, and she moved to Cape Breton, and she played the banjolin, like a banjo, drum, mandolin, strings, and was really into the bluegrass and stuff like that. But when I was a child, we didn't hear her play. She had kind of put it away. It was something, every now and again she'd pull it out, let you look at it. but I didn't hear her play, and I'd hear my mom and my aunts and uncles talk about grandmother playing and how often she played when she was young. And when I started to take lessons and develop my style of writing, I found that kind of came through, and I feel like it's in my DNA. It just is there. My love for it just was always there from the minute I'd hear those old Southern songs and that sort of thing. So I felt those connections, which was one of the beautiful things about Celtic Colours too, as a listener, when I could take my organizer hat off and absorb at the festival club. Then I would I'd fuel up again, and that carried me through the winter.
I think we all have to do that, because there's so much involved in the organizing that you can lose touch with that, and we have to reconnect with that and keep connected with that in order to be able to do the job. I think pretty much everybody who's watching us probably knows that not only is Dawn our artistic director, but she's a fiddler and has been since she was a child, and a dancer since you were a child too.
Yeah, I started dancing first. Yeah, I was about 4 when I started dancing, although I will admit that there are some videos out there to prove that we were dancing at an even younger age, learning to dance. So there's lots of blackmail out there, I suppose. Yeah, it was, for me, growing up with the fiddle, it was one of those opportunities. It's just, I said this in an interview recently, I just felt like I was born at the right time. It's one of those things you wonder if you had shifted, if you were born, 20, 50, 80 years before, what would your experience have been? But by the time I was 6, and there's always been a fiddle in the house. Mom and Dad don't play. They love music and they can dance, but they don't play. We had quite the community leaders in Mabou, and one of which would have been Maureen Mackenzie, as well as Margaree Beaton, and they had invited Stan Chapman to come down, start making the trip from Antigonish down to Mabou, and every Saturday morning at Indrockage, the museum right in the village, we'd gather and we'd learn. So I was the youngest at 6, and the oldest, I always say, was, I think, Angus Coo, my next door neighbour, and he was probably 70, in his 70s. Mm-hmm. And he had always, played the fiddle, and so we were all in a class. There might have been 20 of us. And, you can imagine a quiet, scared little redhead thinking, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And there was only one day that I really didn't want to go, and then after that, Mom, calmed the tears, and it was great. So it's been never looked back after that.
Well, you're trying to combine now the professional performing career with a more than full-time job, I have to say, as artistic director of Celtic Colours. How is that going for you?
It's a balancing act. I'm very lucky. Margaree and I are a team, and we make it work, and we balance, we both bring something different to the table. And, it's a time thing. It's always about time. And I've had a conversation with Natalie, because now she has 6 children. And at the time that I was talking to her a few years ago, she had so many children. And I'm like, how do you do it, Natalie? And it's like, if you want to make it happen, you'll find the time. There's always time. So, I'm very lucky that where I work recognizes that I can take a little time off, and Margaree works full time as well, and we have great fellows with Kenneth Mackenzie and Jason Roach that make us priority as well, and we just pick a couple of trips a year, and we play in the summer. I know every inch of the Trans-Canada from Mabou to Sydney.
I'll bet you do. But you do a lot of dances and various other kinds of performances without the band too, right?
I do, yeah. There's little things. I mean, dances, play at the Red Shoe. We played at the Interpretive Centre this past weekend. And that's good. I need to, and I was at the session last night at the Red Shoe. So that I never want to lose that, because it keeps me grounded. It's part of my recharge, and make sure that I don't forget what's most important. So
would you play us a tune?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll rosin up the bow right now.
Cool. So while Dawn is getting ready to play for us, we'd like to thank our sponsors who have been so helpful in supporting us for this podcast.
Imagine studying music on a beautiful island known for its deep roots in music and culture. Cape Breton University offers a music program like no other in Canada. With an emphasis on traditional and popular music, CBU's music major provides an exciting alternative to conservatory-style classical or jazz music programs. Their course offerings are unique. The music theory courses are aimed at the needs of contemporary musicians and help you understand the music you play. In the applied music courses, you get to study with teachers who have worked with names like the Bear McNeils, Ashley McIsaac, and Natalie McMaster. Through work placements, you will gain experience in the music field tailored to your interests, whether it's studio experience, promotion, tourism, or artist management. Through the optional business minor, you can add smart, real-world management skills to the creative talent you develop. The ethnomusicology focus lets you explore local traditions, popular song, as well as music and dance from cultures all over the world. Their issues-based courses will immerse you in the debates that shape music today.
Cape Breton Island has magical effects. Your ears will delight. Your legs will walk through time. Your eyes will fill with wonder. Your arms will embrace. Your heart will never leave.
was great, Dawn. Love to hear you play. Tell us what you actually did play there. What were the tunes?
I played a tune this is one that Margaree and I learned on YouTube, which is kind of neat. It's kind of something that the modern way of learning tunes. And it's a classic Jerry Holland tune, Lonesome Eyes.
Oh.
And Lonesome Eyes was a tune that we played. Margaree does beautiful harmonies on tunes, and she really spends a lot of time working on that and crafting that. So we played this at our maternal grandmother's funeral, and I played it. I've played it a couple of times at an ecumenical service for the Mabukeli and also at the Red Shoe, and both times I dropped my bow after I played this tune. So it's one of those things I don't know what that means. What's that interpretation?
It's a very special tune.
It's
a very special tune.
And again, how it traveled.
Yes, it's traveled, and we had Jerry actually play it with Carlos Nunez. It was
the opening show.
The opening show one year. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
You're welcome.
We only have a few minutes left, so I thought I'd ask Yvette what you're really looking forward to this year. I know you can't choose, but I mean, what are some of the things that just get you excited and you don't want people to miss?
Okay, which is, again, really hard to choose. There are so many. There's a really interesting tour that takes place in Ile-Madame that is a guided tour of all of the lighthouses of Ile-Madame. And lighthouses are one of those things that if you're folks from nowhere near the coast, it's pretty special. And back in the day when there were lighthouse keepers and many more of them, it was a rich part of our history. So it's really interesting to hear some of the backstory on that little island that has so many lighthouses.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is really interesting is paired up with the Savoy show that's happening on the first Saturday. There will be a mine tour at the Miners Museum. And they run the mine tours regularly, but this will be a nice special event that happens the afternoon of the Savoy show, followed by a dinner that is put on by the KOC in Glace Bay in partnership with the Children's Wish Foundation. So it ends up being a lovely fundraiser for them. And a nice day spent in Glace Bay learning about Glace Bay history before you go to the historic Savoy Theatre for your concert. So pretty excited about that.
And Dawn, what gets you excited? I know there's lots of special projects and tribute shows. There's 2 tribute shows this year, but is there something you just can't wait to do?
I can't pick one.
No, you don't have to. But what do you want people to see? You don't want people to miss.
I think they should go to a show every night.
Of course.
And they should start with the opening show because, again, so many tunes of Phil Cunningham's have been played and performed and recorded here in Cape Breton. And he's one of the best storytellers, as we know. So I think the opening show will be fantastic. Always excited about the dance. We have 2 dance shows, the one in Mabu earlier in the week, and then the Shedda Camp show in the closing afternoon. Mac, one of our artists in residence, Mac Moore, has got a kind of a re-envisioned piano summit that will take place at Strathspey Place. Maybelle, she's McQueen, we've got a tribute show for her. That's happening in Belcote on Thursday. I'm really excited to see Les Amis de Temps.
All those bands, but the closing is going to be a really, really strong,
I hope I have a good seat for that show.
Well, I'm glad if you can sit.
Yeah.
But I never sit through those things.
I'll wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah. Before we go, I just wanted to go back to this broad spectrum of things that we do at the festival, particularly looking at all the community cultural events and sort of how that actually happens. And it doesn't happen by accident, and it's a lot of work. But a lot of it comes from the communities themselves. So we wanted to share that with our viewers before we go. But I wanted to thank both Dawn and Yvette for sharing so much of themselves with us today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for chatting. It's been great.
So before we go, we'd like to share with you a video that we did a couple of years ago that talks about how we actually make all of those community events happen and how that comes from the community. Thanks for joining us. From the very beginning of Celtic Colours, we set it up so that communities had to express an interest to be involved in the festival. So they had to write us a letter saying, yes, we want to host an event. And initially that was concerts. But then as time went on, and we always had way more communities interested than we had the opportunity for concerts, we began to look at other things that they could get involved in. And at the same time, we were hearing from our audience that they had other interests and other things they would like to do while they were here in Cape Breton. So we started to have community meetings where we brought people from different organizations who had approached us together and talking about ideas and things that they might like to do. And this has evolved to being a regular thing we do in geographic areas all around the island. We have these meetings once a year in the spring, and we find that the communities come up with a lot of their own ideas, and also we are really creating a range of cultural activities that are very authentic to these communities, because these are the things that they are able to do and interested in doing when Celtic Colours is not happening. So that's how we've evolved into such a huge number of events and such a wide range of activities for Celtic Colours.
During Celtic Colours Festival, we host a participatory event here at Firehouse Ironworks, and it's awesome. First off, I mean, everyone would think economics first. I really value the friendships that I've made, like just some super people and diverse backgrounds, and I mean, secondly, of course, is the economics. People buy our t-shirts and buy some products from here, and yeah, it's been great.
By hosting these community meetings, we ended up developing really close relationships with all of these organizations that wanted to participate in Celtic Colours and were looking for a way to fit. Because not everyone was able to host a concert or get involved with a concert, they were able to kind of identify with their own personal strengths, and with an awareness of the other organizations in the community, began approaching Celtic Colours with the mindset of what can we do in our region to celebrate, what can we do as a network of community organizations to have a critical mass of activities in our region to invite people to come and celebrate in our community, to arrive early and participate in a workshop, for instance, to stay for supper at a local church hall and then go off to the concert that's in the community nearby. So not only was there a relationship developed between us at Celtic Colours and these organizations, there was also a strengthened relationship between the community organizations themselves.
What we're really doing here with the community meetings and the community cultural events and the development of our programming is grassroots community development work. We're working with these different communities to help them to learn more about how they can do things on their own and become more sustainable and actually have an enriched community environment. The communities are gaining capacity to do things on their own at other times of the year. They are creating a better environment in their own community for their own activities. They're making money that they can use to put back into their community facilities, to their community events, and really getting a sense of working together as organizations, so that by working together they all benefit. And we've seen many examples where communities did that, and we now have very, very active tourism facilities, active community events going on throughout the year. So I think that it works when you really sit down with community groups and spend some time with them and develop relationships with them and help them to develop relationships with each other.